Welcome to the deep dive. You've handed us a really interesting set of materials this time.
Yeah, it looks like we're digging into handcrafted audio equipment.
Exactly, and specifically how it connects to, well, the emotion we get from music. That was your
Sure.
starting point, right?
It was. I'm fascinated by that link. And you've got info here on Phonograph, a Canadian hi-fi company,
Right.
details on the legendary A21 amplifier,
That name keeps coming up.
background on Sugden Audio itself, their whole handmade philosophy, an explainer on Class A amplification,
Okay.
and even your own notes for a podcast about understanding emotion. All seems to tie together.
So our mission then is to unpack what makes some audio gear like this Sugden A21 feel so special, especially in, getting that musical feeling across.
That's the goal. Let's see if we can connect the technical dots to the emotional experience.
Okay, so starting with Phonographe, the Canadian company, their focus is exceptional handcrafted audio for hi-fi retailers in Canada.
Yeah, that slogan itself kind of sets a tone, doesn't it?
It does. It immediately signals this focus on careful creation, aiming for, well, great sound. Like it matters how it's made.
Absolutely. And that's a theme we'll probably see again. This idea that the craftsmanship isn't just about longevity, it might actually be part of this sound signature itself.
Which leads us straight into the Sugden A21. You called it legendary. The sources say it's the world's first production pure Class A transistor amplifier from 1967.
That's the one, 1967. And it's quite a claim, but it seems it made a splash right away.
How so? What made it stand out back then?
Well, remember, this was early days for solid state, for transistor amps. And a lot of them apparently sounded a bit sterile, maybe harsh.
Okay.
But the A21, right from the start, people noted its warm, smooth, and musical sound. It was different.
So what was the magic? The sources really hammer this pioneering Class A design. I gather Class B was more the standard back then.
Generally, yes. Class B was, and often still is, more common because it's more efficient with power.
Right. Less electricity wasted as heat, I guess.
Exactly. But the way Class B works, there's a tiny moment where one transistor switches off and another switches on to handle different parts of the sound wave.
Okay.
And that switchover point can cause something called crossover distortion. It can add a kind of subtle graininess or harshness, especially in quieter parts of the music.
Ah, okay. So Class A is different how?
In pure Class A, like the A21, the transistors amplifying the signal are always on. They're always conducting electricity, drawing power constantly, even when there's silence.
Always on. So no switching.
No switching distortion, no crossover distortion. The transistors are always ready to amplify the entire musical waveform, both the positive and negative swings, smoothly.
Okay, I think I'm getting it. It's like they're always idling, ready to go instantly rather than having to kickstart each time.
That's a decent way to think about it. That continuous operation eliminates that specific type of distortion, leading to what your sources describe as a significantly more natural and engaging sound.
And that's where the musicality and warmth descriptions come from.
That seems to be the core of it. Reproducing music with a richer tonal quality, really good clarity in the mid-range, where voices and many instruments live in smooth highs that aren't fatiguing. It avoids being clinical.
More organic, maybe, like capturing the texture, not just the notes.
Precisely. And the longevity of this thing is just wild. It's basically been in continuous production since '67.
Seriously, the same basic amplifier.
Well, they've updated it, of course. The sources mentioned the A21 signature, the A21 SE signature, enhancements to power, circuitry refinements.
But the core idea remains.
Apparently so. They've kept that fundamental Class A sonic character. And get this, people are still using original amps from the late 60s and early 70s.
Wow, that says a lot about how well they were built.
Absolutely. Robust build quality and a timeless sound, it seems, which connects directly to Sugden Audio's whole philosophy.
The handmade in Britain aspect, and West Yorkshire specifically.
Yeah, since 1967. This isn't mass assembly line stuff. It's skilled people meticulously putting each unit together.
Does that really make that much difference? Beyond just, being well built.
The sources argue it does. That dedication, that skill, contributes directly to the reliability, obviously, but also the sonic consistency and excellence. Your notes mention the move to their current factory in Heckmanwijk back in '81 under Tony Miller. And the Miller family is still involved, alongside a team where apparently half the staff have been there over 30 years.
30 years. That's incredible continuity.
It's rare. It suggests a real depth of knowledge and commitment. They even do their own custom engineering, screen printing, assembly. Everything in-house.
Total control over the process.
Seems like it. Each product made by one person or one small team.
Okay, let's circle back to Class A for a second. You used a water tap analogy earlier. Can we unpack that a bit more?
Sure. So imagine a tap that's always slightly open, always letting a little water flow. That's like the Class A amplifier always drawing current.
Right. Constantly on.
Now, the music signal tells the tap how much more to open or how much to close towards that slightly open state. Louder music opens it more, quieter music closes it down, but it never fully shuts off.
Okay.
Because it's always flowing, the change in flow is smooth and continuous, whether you're asking for a trickle or a gush. There's no abrupt start-stop.
So translating back to the amp, the transistors are always conducting the music signal, just varies how much current flows through them.
Exactly. They smoothly track the entire waveform up and down without that switching glitch you get in other designs.
And that's what gives it this linearity the sources mentioned. Like it copies the input signal very accurately.
Precisely. High linearity means very low distortion, especially the odd order harmonics that tend to sound, well, unmusical to our ears. Class A is all about prioritizing that purity of sound.
Even if it's less efficient and makes more heat.
That's the trade-off. Sound quality first.
Which brings us right back to the emotion in music. If the amplifier is adding less of its own noise or distortion,
then theoretically you're hearing more of what's actually in the recording.
the subtleties, the inflections in a voice, the decay of a note, the stuff that carries the feeling.
That's the connection people make. That the purity of Class A, as seen in the A21, lets more of that emotional information through. It's why the A21 is praised for musicality, even though its power output, maybe 23-30 watts, isn't huge by modern standards.
It's not about loudness, it's about the quality of that sound.
Exactly. It apparently has really good control over speakers because of the Class A design. Despite the modest wattage, it reveals detail.
It's amazing how one product can cast such a long shadow, influencing audiophiles, other designers. This idea of musicality over raw power.
It really carved out a niche. And the company history is interesting too. Started by James Edward Sugden in '67, but as part of a company called Research Electronics.
Yeah, wasn't that company making scientific instruments?
That's right. Audio was a new venture. And the A21 wasn't even branded Sugden at first. It was for a company called Richard Allen.
Huh. Small beginnings.
Then they brought it under the Sugden name, moved to a bigger place in Cleckheaton, developed other products like the A48 amp, the C51 P51 pre-power combo, even tuners and test gear.
And then the Miller family's involvement from '81 onwards.
Right, Tony Miller taking over, moving to Heckman-Weich, and sadly, as your notes mentioned, both Tony and later his son Patrick passed away relatively recently.
But the company continues with the family and that long-serving team.
It really emphasizes that this is more than just a brand. It's a legacy built on this passion for sound and craftsmanship.
Yeah, that continuity is quite something.
It really is. That dedication to doing things a certain way by hand in Yorkshire, it's fundamental to the whole Sugden story and the A21's place in it.
So wrapping this up, we've looked at the Sugden A21, a real piece of audio history.
Definitely. A pioneer with its pure Class A design.
A design focused squarely on minimizing distortion for a more natural and musical sound.
Which arguably allows for a more emotionally engaging listen.
And all this is underpinned by Sugden Audio's history, this unwavering commitment to handcrafting in Britain for over 50 years.
Yeah, connecting the technical choices directly back to that core experience of listening to music and feeling something. The lack of distortion, the linearity, it might just be key to letting the soul of the music shine through.
It really leaves you wondering, when you have equipment built with such specific dedication, like this A21, focusing purely on faithful reproduction, how does that change how we actually connect with the music?
Right. What subtle emotional layers might we suddenly notice when the gear itself gets out of the way more effectively?
It definitely makes you want to listen more closely, maybe explore that high-fidelity world a bit more and see how it impacts your own experience. Thanks for digging into this with me.
Absolutely. Fascinating stuff.